Well, one of the biggest things that has come out of this spring at Georgia, just period, has been the injuries of the wide receivers. George Pickens suffering an ACL injury, is questionable to play at all in 2021, and then Jermaine Burton, who is recovering, was knocked out for a time as well. He also had some guys had some minor stuff, but let me read to you what Kirby Smart had to tell us over the weekend after Georgia's scrimmage, which was really, and this is really important because Georgia's receivers are a critical function of a critical part of the way they want to function moving forward. He said, "I'm fired up. I wish I had all of the guys," talking about receivers, "because I think that competition would be really good to see who the top guys are and who the top guys and the starters are. But a lot of the young guys are catching up to the old guys really fast with the work that they've been doing." Now, it depends on who you talk to that watches the practice. It depends, Kirby's going to say what benefits him to say, of course. But folks have said privately that the receivers have been coming along, and that does not obviously include George Pickens or Jermaine. So when you think about Georgia's receivers and how important they are to what Georgia wants to do here in the near future, I just think that last quote there is really important. I mean, you're talking about a group of young guys. I mean, everyone was depending on George Pickens to be the guy, and I still think that is something they're hopeful for by the end of the year. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm fired up. I wish I had all of the receivers because I think that competition would be good to see who the top guys and the starters are. So right now, if you look at Georgia's receiving group, there are 10 receivers on scholarship by my count. One of them, including in that, is George Pickens. Kirby also had a lot of good things to say about Kearis Jackson. But he was talking about Blaylock yesterday. He's mentioned Burton, Kearis Jackson, obviously Demetrius Robertson. He had this to say about Demetrius. Demetrius had some good plays out there. Ladd McConkey, Donnie Mitchell has made some plays. Jalen Johnson, who is a guy that that's not been mentioned hardly at all. But people like Marcus Rosemy St. Jack, he's getting close is what, Jack Saint. He's getting close according to Kirby. Dominique Blaylock running on the sides. You got George is out. Jermaine is a little bit dinged up too. So those guys didn't go. And you're seeing younger players having the capability and the opportunity to play. Kearis Jackson would be difficult enough to deal with. But I think with the guys who are out who will be back in the fall, as well as Terrence Edwards' favorite guy, Mitchell, you could be seeing some guys that you didn't really anticipate playing a lot, making plays, because they have recruited really well at receiver. There's no question. That is something that that should not be a problem moving forward in the program in a way that it certainly was. There were times in 19 and 20 where it just didn't feel like the receivers were dangerous. There was no Mecole Hardman, Javon Wims. Guys like that were gone. Now you got guys in the program like Burton and Pickens who could be, really scary receivers, and Kearis Jackson, who is really, really steady. That gives you, just those three alone would give you, top class receivers for teams to deal with. But I think that you can tell after yesterday that Kirby Smart is excited about where they're going offensively, particularly at receiver. And he was talking about how they want to be an explosive offense and all this stuff. I'm trying to find the exact quote as we go here, and that's always harder to do once you get started. But he really this was not grumpy Kirby. You get a lot of different types of Kirbys after these, and we've not seen him in person in so long. Excuse me for that audio right there. We've not seen him in person for such a long time, but his mannerisms really don't change, and you can tell that they like where they're at with the receivers. And they might be getting a little more comfortable with where they're going at defensive back. That's something for another time. But it is curious because when you start talking about JT Daniels and what you've seen in 4 games from him, the productions from the receivers, even with not JT Daniels in the game, in the game, and then all the things that I hear about the progression of Carson Beck and how people are excited about him. There's been a lot of concentration on Brock Vandagriff, which is with good reason. But I mean, Brock is recovering from surgery. I think we should let Brock mature and grow on his own time too. But I think there's a lot of positive vibes towards the receivers and the quarterbacks right now in a way that we just didn't have that this time last year, or really going into the fall. There was such confusion. When you have a known at a quarterback, that really helps a lot because that just solves a major issue. And really, this is going to be about JT Daniels executing and not making mistakes, because we know he's not scared to throw the ball in tight windows. That Georgia's gone is not ideal, but most programs don't have Kieris, Burton, Blaylock. Those 3 alone coming back. Nevertheless, not even mentioning Darnell, John Fitzpatrick, who JT Daniels said the other day had really improved a lot. This is a Georgia offense you might not be used to seeing, particularly if you're only about 20 years old, because you've been accustomed to running the ball and play action pass to throw over the ball deep with Aaron Murray, stuff like that, Matthew. This could be an offense predicated on the pass. I was the one that was sort of dumb enough to ask about the running backs yesterday, and this is what Kirby said about that, talking about as it relates to the passing game. He said a lot of people want to come after JT Daniels and be aggressive and blitz and do things, but we are going to ask people to really pay for that. The way we make people pay is block it and pick it up. But I'm pleased with what those guys have done, starting to talk about the running backs. And like Kenny McIntosh, as we know, has been reported on Dawg Post and elsewhere, is not out there. But you've got James Cook, Zamir. Those guys are proven guys. Kendall Milton, I think, has had a good spring. I'm excited for G-Day. I almost never say that, but I'm excited for G-Day. I think it's going to be a very telling G-Day. There's been a lot of very good things said about these receivers, JT Daniels and Carson Beck. And you'll see on G-Day if that is true or if that is sort of something that's been whispered more than something we have seen. So that's what I'll be most interested to see this G-Day. I would encourage you to make sure that you're going over to Dawg Post, signing up for the newsletter, which I'm going to link below. Make sure you're clicking on that and signing up. You don't want to miss out on this. It's a free newsletter. But G-Day is going to be an exciting time at Georgia, mainly because of what's going on in the passing game. So if you like throwing it, you're going to be happy in a couple of in this Saturday. Dean Legge from Dawg Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan and encouraging you to sign up for the newsletter below.